Welcome everyone to our late edition of our weekly share in Pirkay Avos. And today is a special day for the Weiss family as we are remembering my father, Olav Shalom's 29th yahrzeit. So we learn in his memory for Reb Aaron Tzvi ben Rameir. His neshama should have an aliyah, he should have a lichtig Gan Eden, he should be a meltz yosher for our family, for all of us and all of Klal Yisrael. And we also learn, sponsored by Seth Kurtz, Leili Nishmas and Kurtz, Chana Bas Yitzchak, Haneshama should have a lichtig Gan Eden. I'd like to zoom in this week on the 7th Mishnah in the 3rd parak of Pirkay Avos. And, you know, we say that Pirkay Avos is a compendium of our avos, of our fathers that bring us into the next world. There are biological fathers that brought us into this world, and then there are the great teachers that help us get to the next world. And could you imagine if you are learning your entire life and you get a shot at a few lines to give distilled advice? And what Rabbi Yehuda Nasi did in Pirkay Avos is he picked authors that gave over that which they dedicated their life to. And this Mishnah is a perfect example. Rabbi Elazar Ish Bar Tosa, who is one and the same, he's also known as Rabbi Elazar ben Yehuda. So we are taught in the Gemara, it's actually Gemara in Tanis Daf Chav Daled. The Gemara tells us that Rabbi Elazar was such a philanthropic man that charity collectors actually ran away from him. Now, I don't know if any rich man ever met somebody who was collecting that ran away from him. I've never seen such a sight in my life, that a person is going around collecting money and he sees a benevolent person and runs away from him. But you have to understand that Rabbi Elazar impoverished himself to give to others. That's how benevolent he was. There's a famous story that he went out to buy a dowry for his daughter. And Gabayit Stakis saw him, and they ducked for cover. And he spotted them, and he ran after them. And he insisted that they tell him what they're collecting for. And they said they're collecting for 2 orphans that are marrying each other. And he said, well, they need the money more than his daughter does. And he gave them the money. In the meantime, he came back and he had a few pieces of wheat in his pocket. He threw it into the silo and he went back to the Beis Medrash. His daughter asked her mother, what did Daddy bring? What did Tati bring home for me? So the mother said, I don't know, but whatever he had, he threw into the silo. She came to the silo and she saw it was so full, so busting of wheat, that she couldn't even open the door. She ran excitedly to her father and said, Tati, Tati, see what Hashem gave to you. He heard about it, he turned white, and he said, no, that's because of tzedakah, it belongs all to the aniyim. And he gave it away all to the aniyim. So we get an idea who this Rabbi Elazar was. And now, with this in mind, we could then see what he says and what he recommends in the Mishnah. He's preaching what he practiced. Rabbi Elazar Ish Bar Tosa, Aimer Tein Loi Mishaloi. Give back to him from what was his. In other words, Hashem gives us wealth, give it back to him. She'ata v'shelecha shaloi. You and yours is his. He gave you. So make sure to give from what he gave you back to him by giving it to others. See, when you give to others, you're giving to Hashem. It says, Milva Hashem chonein dal. You're giving a loan to Hashem when you're gracious to the poor. And he quotes from David HaMelech, who says, Ki mimcha hakol, from you is everything, umiyodcha nasanu lach, and from your hand we give back to you. Now it happens to be that later on in this parak, Mishnah Yud Gimel, Rabbi Akiva, who we know Rabbi Akiva was a phenomenally wealthy man from the Gemara. Remember, he was initially very poor, but that was only that he shouldn't be disturbed by wealth while he was developing. But afterwards he inherited the tremendous wealth of his shver, and he married the wife of Tunis Rufus, and the Gemara tells us in many different ways how he became wealthy. And in the 13th Mishnah, Rabbi Akiva says, Maisrois syog la'oisha. If you want to know how to keep your wealth intact, it's by giving meiser, by giving tithes. This is, of course, the famous Gemara. The Gemara says, and it's Gemara Tanis Daf Tes, Aser to Aser, the pasuk says, and we darshan Aser b'shvil shetisasher. Give meiser in order that you should become rich. In other words, the Gemara says a cryptic lesson that teaches this. You know, in the olden days, they didn't have refrigeration. So how did they preserve things? They preserved things by salting it. So the Gemara says cryptically, Melech Mamoin Chaser. The salt of money is to deprive yourself of some of the money. By giving it away to others, that preserves one's money. So aser, take off tithes, give to the poor, b'shvil shetis asher, in order to become wealthy. It's interesting, there's a pasuk in Mishlei, which the Medrash expounds on. The Medrash says, Imro isa adam mifazer ma'osav l'tzedakah. If you see a person scattering his money to tzedakah, he gives some money to Achnos Skala, he gives some money to, I was in shul on Friday morning, and somebody was collecting. They had a gemach for formula for babies that were allergic and needed special formula. So as a gemach for $36, you could give formula to a needy baby who can't drink regular milk. So you scatter your money there, you scatter your money to Achnos Skala, you scatter. It says in the pasuk in Mishlei, Yesh mifazer, if a person scatters, v'nosif oid, he will add more to himself. So we see melech mamoin chaser. We also are taught, you know, it says that the later the prophets, the more contemporary the message. In other words, Hashem sent with the last prophets messages that were important for contemporary time. So, of course, the last prophets were Chagai, Zechariah, and Malachi. The very last prophet was Malachi. In Malachi, Perek Gimel, Pasuk Yud, this is all the way at the end of Tanakh. It says, and we learn this on Shabbos HaGadol, the Rav generally learns it. It says, Haviyos kol ha'maiser el beis ha'itzer, bring all the tithes. Uvechanuni na b'zayis amar Hashem tzvakos. And Hashem says, normally you shouldn't test me. Trust me, don't test me. But Hashem says you could test me, you could check it out and see if I fulfill my promise. If you take meiser, im lo eftach lochem es harubos hashamayim, I'll open up the great skylights in heaven, varikoisi lochem brocha ad belidai, and I will shower you upon you blessing. And the Gemara says, what does it mean, ad belidai? Ad sheyiflu sivseisechem meloi merdai, until your lips tire from saying it's enough. I don't know if you ever saw people that say enough. Most people want more and more money. But it means until you're satisfied. That's the great bracha of giving tzedakah. Satisfaction. You know, the Sefer Hasidim says that in Tanakh it says tzedakah tatzel memavis twice. So he asked, why does it say it twice? So he says it's telling us that not only if you give charity you're saved for death, but even if you get other people to give charity, you're also saved from death. Now I want to tell you something that the Rambam says. Now, first of all, you have to know that the Rambam wrote on everything. Now, Shulchan Aruch doesn't write on everything. Shulchan Aruch only writes on things that are negeya b'zmaneinu. Shulchan Aruch doesn't write anything about karbanos. Shulchan Aruch doesn't write anything about Sanhedrin. Shulchan Aruch doesn't write anything about the Egla Rufa. Shulchan Aruch doesn't write anything about the Paraduma. Shulchan Aruch doesn't write anything about Orei Miklat. It only writes on what's negeya b'zmaneinu. But the Rambam writes on everything. In the Yad HaChazaka, it's called the Yad because it has 14 sections. Right? B'gematria Yad. He writes on everything, which makes the statement that he makes in the 10th parak of Hilchos Matnas Aniyim, that's his section on tzedakah, gifts to the poor. I want you to check it out. It's something to bring to the table and learn with the family. It's just amazing. In the 10th parak, Halacha Aleph, he says, and I quote, reading it verbatim. I have a Rambam in front of me. Chayovim anu lihizar b'mitzvah tzedakah. We have to be careful with the mitzvah of tzedakah, yoser mikol mitzvah saseh. More than any other positive commandment in the Torah. Now, try this drill. Ask yourself, what would be the mitzvah that you would think you have to be most careful with? So many would say Shabbos. Shabbos is so intricate. There's 39 malachas, there's avos and toldos, hilchos of bishul, it's so complicated. Borer and bona, and whoa! The Rambam says in the Hakdama to the third chelik of the Mishnah Berurah that if you didn't learn the halachas of Shabbos, it's almost impossible to be a shomer Shabbos. But the Rambam doesn't say that. Or I would say the laws of Lashon Hara. Or maybe I would say that you have to be careful with learning Torah. There's a oil Torah. I always have to know, should I be learning more? Should I be learning now? Should I be learning then? But the Rambam, who had everything in front of him, makes this sweeping statement. Chayovin anu lizar b'mitzvah tzedakah. We should be careful with the mitzvah of tzedakah. Yoser mikol mitzvah saseh. More than any other of the 248 positive commandments in the Torah. I would venture to say that the reason why this is true is because Adam koravetz al mamonai. A person loves their money. And they part with it very difficultly. With great difficulty. And the Rambam then makes a statement which makes this very important for the 9 days. Ve'ein Yisrael nigolin ela b'tzedakah. Klal Yisrael is only saved through tzedakah. Shenemar tzion b'mishpat tipadeh v'shaveh b'tzedakah. So that's why during the 9 days is a good time to give tzedakah. And then the Rambam tells us something else. La'olam ein adam ma'ani min tzedakah. Person never gets poor from giving tzedakah. Somebody might think, I'm giving tzedakah, I don't have a nest egg, I'm giving tzedakah, I don't have money in a hand, I'm giving tzedakah. Rambam says a person doesn't become poor from tzedakah. Not only that, the ein davar rav olay hezek niglal b'shvil tzedakah. Nothing bad, no damage comes to a person from tzedakah. Tzedakah is a clean habit. Of course, you have to be prudent. You're not supposed to be reckless. We don't give more than a fifth. But a person that sticks to giving a tenth of his income to tzedakah, of course you have to know. A person that gives to a school in New Jersey when he has children learning in Kollel and they need money, you have to know where to give your money first. You have to know the pecking order. You have to know that. But a person doesn't lose from giving tzedakah. So therefore, I'd like to pray to Hashem for us that we should have the strength to fulfill Pasayach Tiftach, to open up our hands, not to hold too tightly to our money. It's hard because we spend our life making money. So, it's like lifeblood. It's like giving away lifeblood. It's not easy. Take money out of the wallet, it's like a surgery. It's hard to take money out of the wallet. We should be able to give, thereby getting the bracha of wealth, aser b'shvil shetisasher, getting the protection of tzedakah tatzim amavis, getting what it promises elsewhere in Pirkay Avos, mar b'tzedakah, mar b'shalom. Hashem is indebted to us, as it says, Malva Hashem. It says if we're lending money to Hashem, it says if it wouldn't say that, Kaviyachal, we wouldn't be able to say it. It's like Hashem will be indebted to us. And in Yirtzeh Hashem, through our giving of tzedakah, we should see the Gula Shalema Mimhera V'Yameinu.